now, The Morgan Thomas Show. Brought to you by Black's Tire Inc.
Hello and welcome into The Morgan Thomas Show, another Monday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, with myself, Morgan Thomas, and my co-host and good friend, Big Al, Alan Adams. Welcome to the show, Al.
Yeah, man. Look, hey, without Houston here tonight, I feel like I'm gonna actually have to add something to the show. So a lot of pressure tonight. I don't just get to sit back and twiddle my thumbs as usual. So it's gonna be a lot of pressure, but I think I can pull through.
No Houston tonight, as you can see down at the bottom, because he welcomed his little girl this afternoon, I believe. I don't know exactly what time, but congratulations, Houston. We have replaced you with some photos of the Clemson football game, courtesy of the ACC media. But we wish you well. And now that you are a dad, we hope that you're enjoying every single minute of it. And with that being said, not worrying about the show. So that's the last thing I want you to worry about. Hope you're not watching, hope you're not listening, and hope you're enjoying being a dad full time now. So great and wonderful thing. Welcome to the world of being a girl dad. That's what Alan and I have been experiencing now for, almost 6 years now, Al?
Been a long time, my friend. Been a long time. I wish him many sleepless nights.
You know, I mean, it's only right. It's only right. It's a rite of passage to get that sleepless night. But again, if you're watching, whether you're over on Facebook or YouTube, we really appreciate you joining us in. Make sure you like and share the video. We really have nothing prepared for you tonight because Houston's the one that does all that. So we're just going to be winging it like we used to. Get back in the good old days, Al, before when we had only just you and I. What you can expect tonight, Alan, to have all of the healthy insight, all the good analysis. Myself to get distracted and probably press the mute button when I shouldn't. And maybe the stream will fail 3 times. That's usually what happened back when it was Alan and I by ourselves. So I'm just looking forward to whatever can go wrong will go wrong here in the next few minutes. But thank you for joining us while you are right now. Give us a shout. If you're over on Facebook, let us know what you thought about the game. That's the big thing we're going to be talking about, Clemson versus Virginia, looking at our recap of that game. One of those games where, as you can see in the comments, or in the title of the video, I kind of a little bit trollish here. I gotta be honest, a little bit trollish here by saying Clemson struggle won by 35. If you follow me on Twitter, you know I was a little frustrated at the beginning. I was one of those fans, but you know they came and laid it on. I got some stats I wanted to go over with that game too. So Alan and I are going to be talking about the Clemson Virginia Tech game. Then we got our picks against the spread to wrap up everything. And then to start out, as we always do, we're going to do kind of a little quick look back at week 14. We're heading into week 15, and going to be looking into that. But before we get started, I wanted to tell you about Black's Tire Inc. You know, they're our primary show sponsor, blackstireinc.net, 864-647-9292. Family owned and operated since 1971. If you need new tires, brakes, alignments, tire repair, or just looking for a friendly professional to help answer your questions, check out Black's Tire Inc., located 1415 East Main Street, Westminster, South Carolina. Again, give them a call, 864-647-9292. Let Dale and Preston know that you heard about them from the Morgan Thomas Show. We would really appreciate it. And you know that they've been a long-time sponsor and a good sponsor for us when I don't have to read anything anymore. I said all that from memory. I'm very proud of myself with that, but I've been doing that for quite some time. But again, thanks so much, Black's Tire. If you're in, I'm seeing Casey, Hart, Bill, Kevron over on Facebook. Al, sorry I stole your thunder there. Don't have many people over on YouTube, so get in, like the video, and share it. Maybe we need to share it to Reddit as I normally do, or TigerNet, or wherever you like to share your videos out there. Thank you for joining in. But Al, so anything in particular stick out to you from week 14? Any game that you were kind of watching the most other than the Clemson game? What was the game that you watched other than Clemson?
Let's see. I watched Texas A&M and Auburn. We had the pick on that game as well. Let's see. What else did I watch? I watched Notre Dame and Syracuse because those were the 2 lone wolf picks for you. I wanted to make sure that, Houston and I came on the right end of those.
Thank you.
And yeah. And I think other than that, I had the Clemson game on and the South Carolina game on at the same time, one TV below the other. So that was both good games for us to watch as far as score goes, at least.
Yeah, I mean, I had the Texas A&M game up a little bit, but I mean, when it comes to a Clemson game, especially a late, I'm just always thinking about that Clemson game. I'm just kind of amping myself up for that. That really no other game matters. I don't even know why I do the picks against the spread because the only game that matters to me is the Clemson game. But if you look at kind of our picks, we actually did really well. I think I mentioned this to you, but 5-2, all three of us. So great job, gentlemen, on the 5-2, and we all kind of got there in different ways. But because we like you said, I did have two lone wolves over the weekend. Last week though, Al, not only did you go 5-2 on Saturday, you went 5-2 the Saturday before that. So 10-4, I believe, carry the one. That's a pretty good 2 weeks. And right now, Alan, you're standing at 65-61 overall against the spread. So batting 515. Houston, who's not with us, but he's 66-60.
Mm-hmm.
So he's one up on you.
Yep.
All right. So you got to be careful with that. You got to think about that one as you're making these picks tonight. He's batting 523, and I am still leading the pack, but just by a slim margin. You're just chipping away at me here. I am 67-59. So 2 games up on you and 1 game up on Houston. Houston, though, can't give him props in person, but I mean, he started out, I believe, with a losing record for the first couple of weeks and then has kind of clawed his way back into making a decent year out of it. So
yeah,
good job there. I mean, anytime you can beat Allen, who was our resident champion from last year, that's a good year for you. So congrats, Houston. And get in when you're on the chat about what you think is going to happen when we do the picks against the spread. As you know, we do like an early picks against the spread. So Alan likes to complain about it, but it is very early compared to most. But yeah, I actually did. Al Coon gets in here and says the Coastal Carolina game. That one was a good one too. And It was nice to see Coastal come out with the win there. Man, did not remind you of, and they mentioned this on the show, but did it not remind you of that, Rams Super Bowl, the Rams Titans?
The same thing.
Held it up at the 1 yard line. That was awesome. Yeah. That was pretty cool.
That's the very same comparison I made to Marty, who was sitting there watching with us.
I mean, those two, that's the kind of game you really want. You want those two teams to go at it and give you a good show, and I think they did exactly what we were expecting. You don't always get that in college football. Sometimes it's not as exciting, but to go through our games here, obviously we picked all hammered home Clemson -22. And were you nervous at all? I mean, we'll get into the game a little more, but were you nervous at halftime? It was like 17-10.
Yeah, I'd say I was nervous. I get nervous in these games anyways, regardless. But Clemson just wasn't playing up to Clemson standards in this game. Plain and simple, the defense was not looking very good. I mean, Virginia Tech was kind of running it down their throat and asking them how they liked it there for a little while in the first half, and that's tough to see. It's something you don't see. It was something that I mention all the time. When we're here talking on the show, I probably said it for the last 4 weeks. If you can only run against Clemson, you can't do anything against Clemson. And that proved to not be true for one of the first times in Brent Venables' tenure here at Clemson. So it was tough to watch, but he got it fixed in the second half, and they kind of came to play there. So it was it got out of hand a little bit there near third quarter near the end. So that was kind of good to see. Makes it breathe a little easier for sure. You can enjoy the game a little more.
Yeah, and you make a good point as far as it was and it wasn't a good showing because there was the tale of two halves, really. And really, if you look at it overall, I've got some stats I wanted to cover with you. But if you look at it overall, statistically was pretty dominating of a performance, at least. How I mentioned about being a running team in Clemson and Pittsburgh, for example, the week before, stopping the run really shows what you can do against a team that's all really they can do. Mm-hmm. So the next one was Syracuse. Now, for whatever reason, I picked Notre Dame to beat Syracuse by more than 34. What was I thinking on that? And I didn't feel good about it at first. And when I mentioned it on the show last week, Houston's eyes lit up like, this guy's an idiot. And I was. I mean, if anybody's going to continue to fight, that's one thing you can say about Dino Babers' teams is that they're not giving up. They are hot garbage, but they're just sticking around. They don't they don't get thrown out very easily, and they stick in, and they're going to keep it within the spread. It seems like. So, Syracuse people, you don't lose the fight. That's for sure. One that we all missed on was Boston College. Virginia comes out, and they seem to have it clicking on offense. And this is something that in some of the articles I was reading earlier in the season, it seemed like they had made a turning point and kind of figured something out. And so I was not expecting Boston College to lose this game. I mean, I was thinking they were going to – I was like, +6, give me the +6 because they're going to win this. But what were you thinking? I mean, we all picked BC. You have any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, that's one I was talking about that I had gone back and forth with. I actually had Virginia marked on the paper, but man, BC's just done me right for the most of the year, and I felt bad about it. I was like, man, BC's been covering. They're a good team. They've got a good quarterback, and we didn't really know the health status of Phil Jerkovic going into the game, so that was kind of an iffy deal. But at the last second, it was like, look, I've ridden the Boston College Eagles all year, and they've done me right. I got to go with them. I would have felt terrible if I'd have picked somebody else. So, you know what? You kind of got to ride those, though. You got to ride the hot hand, and that's what we did, and it just didn't work out for us this time. So that's all right. That's one I don't mind to miss so much.
And that was a key there, too, because Dennis Grossel played the entire game. Went 32 and 46 for 520 yards passing, but 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. 520 yards. Goodness. Get this. They're rushing, Al. They're rushing -7 on the day. But, I guess they include the sacks there. But Grossel also had -27 in rushing. So Grossel, thanks for the 520 yards, but no thanks for the interceptions and the 27-yard negative in the rushing game. But yeah, so that kind of tells it a little bit more about that game. The next one was NC State -7. We all won that one. So the Wolfpack was able to keep it going for us there. Miami as well. We thought correctly that Miami would come out and just destroy Duke in that game, and they definitely did. 48-0. So they didn't even need the 15.5 on that game. And then Auburn. All right, Auburn +7 against Texas A&M. This is one that you said you listened to or you watched, but so I picked Auburn as a lone wolfer there, I picked Texas A&M as a lone wolfer there, -7. They ended up winning by 10, kind of late in the game. So, what was your thoughts on that one?
Did you watch it by any chance?
I didn't catch the end of it, but like I said, I started kind of watching I watched only really at the beginning, like the first quarter.
Okay. Well, I watched pretty much the whole game. So it was, I was feeling real good about that game. Auburn was doing just fine. They didn't start out very strong, first couple possessions, I think, or at least their first possession. But, they were back and forth. They even had the lead a little bit. I'm like, man, this, Houston actually talked about them winning the game. I wasn't so sure they were going to win the game. Just thought they might cover the spread. And for a while there, I'm thinking, man, they may win this thing. So Texas A&M kind of gets up and they start to go down the field. I'm like, oh, man, it's starting to look bad here at the end. In the fourth quarter, it's probably about mid fourth quarter, something like that. And, Auburn, one of the defensive backs for Auburn, undercuts one of the passes from Kellen Mond, and it goes right through his hands and right into the hands of a Texas A&M wide receiver for a touchdown. 7-point swing. We would have been good, covered the spread. You would have lost both lone wolves, and we would have gained a game. Made this thing an even tighter race. It was brutal. But they couldn't get it back. They didn't have enough time at the end to. I don't know if they would have done anything anyways. I don't trust Bo Nix. I know you don't. So no. It was a tough one to lose. That was one. Like the Boston College game, I wasn't too sad about that one. They've done a good job for me this year. But I was really hoping Auburn was going to pull one out for us there, and thought they did. Thought they played well enough to do so. Just it's why Vegas wins, man. Yeah,
I mean Auburn went up 14-20 or 20-14. Late in the third quarter, and that gave them about a 64% chance of winning at the time. They got up, they got close to a 78% chance of winning right after halftime, and then the fourth quarter happened. Yeah, and 2 touchdowns, 1 field goal later, Texas A&M walks out. Now they're 7-1 overall, and Auburn falls to 5-4. And that's the thing. Like I felt like, if anything, Texas A&M knew what they were playing for, at least in the postseason, to keep their hopes alive, at least a little bit, right? And so that's why I had to go with them. Plus, I don't like Bo Nix. I don't like Chad Morris's deal. I think they're getting better, but I just don't like Auburn. I don't like picking them.
Yeah, which is understandable. I thought they were going to play spoiler. I mean, with as crazy as this year has been, I just assumed Texas A&M was going to be like, hey, we've got this thing, and Auburn was going to pull one out like Malzahn seems to do at the end of the year, like Houston mentioned last week. I thought they were going to play spoiler, kind of knock Texas A&M out of the equation and really make that fourth or fifth spot real interesting.
And really, if you look at the last game we picked, so we picked Liberty plus. I picked Liberty plus 7, I think, but
we all did.
Yeah, we picked Liberty plus 7, but they didn't play because of COVID. Which,
correct.
That's, to me, you got to give BYU a lot of props. I mean, even though they lost, to be able to, on a dime with no contract, to come down and then play such a great game. I mean, there's a lot of respect for that team. And I really felt like, man, college football should be better with all that, with this just playing whoever, just play these good games, and get rid of some of these garbage games out there. But, you got to spread the wealth, I guess, and got to kind of stick to your conference. I see that too. But Indiana held the lead the entire game. Wisconsin only got away with 2 field goals, and Wisconsin, I don't really understand them at all right now. I mean, they actually had more total yards, 342 total yards, but they did have 2 turnovers. They had more first downs, so this is kind of like one of those Louisville situations where they had more yards, more first downs, but also more turnovers. And as Houston and I mentioned, I think we all picked Indiana actually. Yeah, we all picked Indiana. Plus 14 was almost like too easy. So the spread was Vegas was off on that one.
Yeah, they were, and I mean it's all due to I hate to say Penix, because we all know it's Penix, right? We all know that. They're just trying to get out of the jokes by pronouncing it Penix. We all know that, but he was out, and I think that's what kind of did that. We didn't know what to expect from the backup quarterback, and he actually played a pretty good game. I didn't actually get to watch most of that when I kept up with the score. And saw that it kept it tight. Indiana's defense is why I picked them, though. I thought their defense would be able to keep them in the game. That's exactly what happened, because obviously it wasn't a very high scoring game. So I didn't care that Penix was out of that game. It just didn't really matter to me. But plus 14, it was too easy there with Indiana's defense, how aggressive they are and how good they are at turning people over. And like you said, I believe they had at least 2 turnovers. So yeah, it kind of played out like I thought it would.
And so that was the end of our picks against the spread. Again, we all went 5-2 on the weekend and look to continue to carry it forward. I don't really know. We got 2 weeks to go. These games seem to be getting a little bit harder. Should we go into the playoffs, or should we stop and just take a sigh of relief that we made it through?
I guess it all depends on what the records are. Because if there's ties, we're gonna have to break them. There's no ties in this thing. I don't think so. That's not happening.
There's ties in the NFL.
There shouldn't be.
Everybody or people over in the chat on YouTube is saying that your commentary on Indiana is legendary. So thank you for that. So yeah, I don't know what we're gonna do. Let us know in the chat what you think we should do. Should we continue the picks against the spread into the playoffs, into the bowl season, whatever that may look like, or into the championship phase? ACC. What do you think about this? So the ACC completely just revamps their schedule altogether. Basically, and most people are complaining that are not Notre Dame fans and, Clemson fans. They completely revamp their schedule, and at the end of the season, basically, and tell Clemson, oh, you don't have to play Florida State, which is, we knew that was going to happen anyways. We knew they weren't going to play Florida State. And then they tell Notre Dame, you don't have to make up that game, I believe, against Wake. So it's kind of like, well, were they just assuming that Clemson would beat Virginia Tech and it would be, a non-issue? Because if Clemson would have lost to Virginia Tech, that was another weird thing. Miami would have a game on the same, would have a game this coming weekend. But if Clemson lost and they won, they wouldn't have a game coming up. They'd be able to prepare for the championship game. I mean, does that make sense? I mean, what did you think about that when you heard that?
Yeah, it was kind of crazy. I mean, we all assumed kind of from the beginning that we weren't playing Florida State, and I knew once Clemson wasn't going to play Florida State that Notre Dame wasn't going to play in Wake either. I think that was kind of a foregone conclusion. I'm not surprised at all there. It wouldn't have really mattered had Notre Dame played Wake. The only thing is they don't get that extra week of preparation. I mean, they would have probably beaten Wake, and even if Wake beat them, it doesn't really matter. The winner of the ACC championship would have gone. I guess the way it's affected is if they go undefeated, they don't play that game, and they lose the ACC championship, they still could get in the playoff, as opposed to have had Wake upset them and then they lost in the ACC championship, they would have been out. So yeah, it was a wise decision by the ACC. I hate calling Notre Dame part of the ACC because it's not right. They're joining for a year. And they're going to be gone after this year. I don't like that one bit. I think it's nonsense. But they protected their two top teams, which is what they tried to do in the beginning of the year when they were doing the scheduling with Clemson and North Carolina. When we went over that, they thought North Carolina and Clemson were going to be the two teams to beat, and that turned out not to quite be the case. But it's you protect your cash cows. That's what you do.
Well, I mean, they gave Notre Dame a pretty good schedule too. I mean, it wasn't.
Yeah, they did.
It wasn't like the easiest schedule in the world, but it wasn't the worst either. So
yeah, it wasn't bad.
So I think that the Big Ten did the same thing too. And now talking about schedule changes, so there's rumors that, and I don't know how true this is, but there's rumors that they're going to, let's say that Michigan does what Kirk Herbstreit said they were going to do, and not play on purpose.
Yeah,
which I would think would be like such a Gamecock thing to do, but not play on purpose. Then Michigan came out, oh no, how dare you even mention that? Then, the politically correct thing is like come out and to say, I'm sorry. I was, I mean, we all know that Kirk Herbstreit is an Ohio State grad, or
right.
He played at Ohio State. And so we know that there's some rivalry tension there. So I really don't even beat him up for that, because when we're kind of a fan show and we're not trying to be super, unbiased, we're trying to actually be biased towards Clemson. I love it when rival fans get in our chat and say, wow, you guys are homers. And I'm like, yeah. But, did you not see the orange in this on this video? But yeah, so we're going to talk about Clemson versus Virginia Tech coming up next. Thank you for getting in. If you're on Facebook or YouTube, let us know, your name and jump in the chat. Let us know where you're listening from or watching from, and we'll give you a shout out. Like we got Brian and Giggled and over on YouTube, and we got people over on Facebook. Al, tell us who's on Facebook, and then we'll tell you about some sponsors, and then we'll get into our Clemson Virginia Tech recaps.
Now you want me to tell you who's on Facebook after you tried to steal my thunder earlier. Now I can't even remember the names that you said.
Just say them again.
We got Billy Sigmund. Look, we talked about Dylan. I don't know if Dylan is still on there. He's listed as Joseph Rose. Okay, this guy's gone by like 8 different names since elementary school.
Can you really trust anybody that's gone by 8 different names in their lifetime?
Yeah, it's nonsense. And South Carolina fan, go figure, right? His name is Dylan. It's always been Dylan, and it will always be Dylan. But Al Kuhn gets in here on time tonight. Been active in the chat. Bill Lanham as well. Let's see, Billy Sigmund, Casey Cregan, Hart Vaughn, I know is in here too. I had to restart the Facebook over here. I know it used to be the Facebook back in the day. Had to restart it, so I'm losing all my past comments. But they've been real active on the chat tonight. Al Kuhn was in before we even started the show, so kudos to Al Kuhn. I've been giving him a lot of praise for getting here on time the last several shows. He's been doing a real good job there. Of course, I kind of miss not making fun of him for that, but hey, that's all right. We'll take it. Get in here on time. But yeah, a lot of activity over there on the comments line. That's what we like. We want to hear what you think. We can't always get to your questions. I know I saw y'all asking some questions on there earlier, but we can't always get to them.
Don't say that, Al. We get to everyone.
Yeah, every question, right? We'll do this show till midnight.
Yeah, and Dylan's in there. He said, "You're in. Of course you can." And then Bill gets in and says, "When is Ian Book calling in tonight?" And by the way, what a trash move for ESPN to play. I mean, and I felt bad for Virginia Tech fans because the game was still up for grabs, and he's sitting here just talking away like, you guys don't have like a 5th quarter show or something after the game that you can bring him on, but they've got to hype the ACC championship game that hasn't even been decided yet. But let me tell you about our some other sponsors that we have, and one of those that we really love is the Charleston Sports Pub of Clemson, 359 College Avenue, Clemson, South Carolina. That's downtown Clemson. You can check them out. You can see the Clemson Tiger legends dine there. So go check out Charleston Sports Pub when you have a chance. Great food, great atmosphere, and great people there. And then also, we don't just dress for success, we TS for success. That is tigersports.com, tigersports.com for all your Clemson apparel and gear. We go there. Everything that we are wearing tonight is from Tiger Sports Shop, and there are 2 locations for your convenience. But go check them out. You can tell Sean and Julie that the Morgan Thomas Show sent you there. We would really appreciate it. They'd probably get a real kick out of it. Sean just loves that. We've had lunch with Sean a couple of times, and he just loves to be a part of the show, and we really appreciate his sponsorship as well as Perry over at the Charleston Sports Pub. Now, Charleston Sports Pub, not just in downtown Clemson. You can get one in downtown Greenville, and then there's 4 locations down on the coast as well, so you can check that out. But yeah, let's get into our Clemson versus Virginia Tech show, or pregame wrap up. Now I actually have some photos cycling, but Al, I'm gonna do it. I'm actually gonna play some highlights from the game so you can enjoy them. They're not my highlights, but they're the ACC Digital Network highlights. And really, slap me on the wrist if this is bad. But you can enjoy the highlights as we talk about it. And, you know, we're gonna comment on what's being said. We're not just gonna watch what's being said. But I'm gonna play the highlights down there in place of Houston. I'm guessing Houston might be kind of upset if we replace him with legit highlights. He might not like that, Al.
He may not, but that's okay. I mean, first of all, I want to know, everybody to know, listeners, anybody that might see this, that I have not given Morgan permission to play these. Okay? This is all on the show host. Call him. I can give you his cell phone number. I can give you his blood type, whatever you need.
I just want to see what happens, how fast that I get blocked, considering that Whitney Houston got me blocked within 35 seconds. And so, you know, Sony Digital Music Entertainment does not play around, just letting you know. But okay, so here's some thoughts as you're watching kind of the highlights from the ACC Digital Network YouTube channel that I have up there at the bottom. But so first of all, Tyler Davis, we've talked about this guy so much, but he is so crucial to Clemson's defensive success. And by the way, this kind of jumped. I'm skipping this ahead. I feel like this jumped. No. Y'all, we got to hold on. Al, I'm sorry.
This is brutal. It's not like it's a live show or anything. No big deal.
That was like not the highlights I wanted. I want better highlights than that. Let me put this up here. You guys are watching it's already in the 4th quarter by the time you watch that highlight here.
You were playing my flag football highlights from 07.
Oh, well. No, all right. So that was like the highlight. That was the highlight of the highlights. Now, anybody listening on a podcast is like, I hate this. But now this is the condensed game available on the ACC Digital Network. We do not own the rights to this, but Tyler Davis. So, monster guy. The defense completely changes when he is on the field. So, when he got injured, I believe actually he got injured early on in the game, but he was able to come back. So it made me kind of nervous. It made me kind of really nervous when he comes out. Now, when he gets injured, I don't want to see that guy on the ground at all.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a problem. We've been talking about that all year. And that's one of the things that really shocked me was that we had Tyler Davis and we had, James Skowski in the game at the beginning of this Virginia Tech game, and they were still running on us. I'm like, wait a minute, this is not supposed to happen. And what I think the only explanation I can really come up with there is that you have to go to Virginia Tech's game plan, which was brilliant, by the way. I understand it was painful to watch. I get it. I was in there on the couch watching it with you, okay, Tiger fans. But, I mean, the fact is they bled the play clock down. They broke the huddle quickly and ran the play. Brent Venables wants time to adjust. He wants to see what they're about to run, put all those crazy signals in there. You know how Clemson is half the time, they look around for these fast teams like, what's the play? What's the play? And they're snapping the ball. We've given Brent Venables some trouble with that over the years, but that's tough. That's a tough thing for him to adjust, and I think it took him a couple of series to really figure out what he wanted to do there, and if he wanted to go, just kind of a base defense and kind of run with it. So it appeared that Tyler Davis was not the Tyler Davis he's been all year. or Skowski. But I don't think it was that. I think it was the game plan by Virginia Tech. I wouldn't be surprised to see that by some team, whether it's Notre Dame in the ACC championship or whether it's somebody in the playoff, because I think that was a serious wrinkle right there that gave Clemson some trouble out of the gate.
And I mean, we're talking about trouble, but first quarter, 7 points, second quarter, 3 points, third quarter, fourth quarter, nothing. So we're talking about giving them trouble, but this team definitely did adjust. I would say they really didn't have as much trouble on defense because now look at this stat that I kind of found earlier today. So rushing yards, we talked about Virginia Tech all year has been the best rushing team in the nation and behind Khalil Herbert. Would you know that was their worst rushing game of the year? 131 yards and 1 touchdown. Okay.
Yeah.
The previous worst rushing game was the game that I talked about Clemson needing to mimic, which was Pittsburgh, and they stopped them for 156. That was their previous worst. They've actually have been held under 200 the past 3 games. So a lot of it might have been just the terrible ACC at the beginning of the year, because North Carolina State, 314 yards. Duke, I mean, come on, Duke, 324 yards. Boston College, which is kind of surprising, but 350 yards. Louisville, 283 yards. But then Miami, Pittsburgh, Clemson, 3 games in a row there, 160, 156, 131. So they're progressively getting worse, maybe getting kind of found out now that there's more tape on the transfer, Herbert.
Those are the 3 best defensive lines in the ACC probably as well.
Yeah. Right, yeah. I mean, other than the anomaly of, I guess, Boston College, I thought they were a little bit better, but they hung up 350 there. And then, so I was really proud of the defense in that sense. And you mentioned that earlier about stuffing Boston or stuffing, Virginia Tech in the run game would be the key. If they can't run against Clemson, then that's basically their strategy.
Yeah.
And that really was it. If you look at Clemson, on the other hand, Clemson had their second best rushing game of the year, and it really didn't feel that way.
No, it didn't.
And 238 yards and 4 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just looking, and I'm like, well, I know that didn't come from Travis Etienne, because that man has been having a difficult time getting anything going on. And I see people saying, well, look what Lynn J. Dixon did: 3 carries, 37 yards, 12 yards per carry with 1 touchdown. Do you feel like that? Why did Lynn J. Dixon have more success than, say, Travis Etienne?
Because he's not Travis Etienne, and they weren't focused on him. I mean, Travis Etienne, they know when Travis Etienne is the game, they're like, we have to stop this guy, plain and simple. And that's what they've been doing all year. And they've done a good job of that. After the first few games, when they found out Clemson's game plan is to get the ball to Travis in a bunch of different ways, they're like, look, forget about it. I don't really care what it makes, happen in the passing game. We're going to stop this guy on the run. And that's what they've done. And that's what they continue to do. And Clemson's, offensive line has not run block as well as we'd like for them to. But when there's another running back in the game not named Travis Etienne, they don't sell out to stop the run anymore. And some of those holes get a little bit bigger than they usually are. So, and Lynn J. had a great game. It was good to see Lynn J. have a good game. He has not had a very good year, not the year I was expecting, certainly as a backup. But he looked good. He looked good last night, or on Saturday night. I was very, very proud of the effort he gave, and Rencher's run was awesome as well, for sure.
So we have been suspended on YouTube. How long did that take, Al? That took me about, what would you say, 5 minutes? 5 or 10?
You guys are looking at a new producer that's coming, okay? None of this crap anymore. I apologize to all the listeners for more.
I had to try it. I mean, there's a lot of people out there doing worse than this, but that's what.
Gosh, that doesn't make it right, Morgan.
It does make it right, Al. I wonder if you can even hear us. I don't even really know. But yeah, you can hear us. The stream, I can still hear myself speaking on the stream, but
well, thank goodness.
There's no actual pictures, I guess you could say. So it's more of like a podcast, I guess. So here's what we'll do. We'll stop it. We'll bring it right back. We'll take our radio break here. We'll stop it. We'll get right back into it with the second part of the Morgan Thomas Show.